Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to kind of get into something that I think a lot of you in asset-intensive industries are going to be pretty familiar with, and that's regulatory compliance. We've got some really good sources on this, and I'm happy to have our expert here to help us break it down.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic, and for good reason. Staying compliant with all those regulations, whether it's environmental, safety, or even just operational, it's super critical,
Yeah.
you know? And the consequences of not doing it right, they can be pretty significant. It can impact your bottom line and even like your company's entire reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going through some of this material, the thing that stood out to me was how complex it all is.
Hmm.
We're not talking about like one set of rules. It's like this whole web of regulations
Right.
that's constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of companies really struggle to keep up. They're trying to manage all of it
Yeah.
with these really outdated systems and manual processes, and it makes it incredibly difficult to monitor everything,
Right.
report on it,
Yeah.
and then ultimately prove that you are compliant.
Yeah. And some of what we were reading actually highlighted how this lack of centralized data
Hmm.
and the reliance on these manual processes, it directly impacts a company's budget, like their operating budget.
Yeah, that's a really key point.
Yeah.
Think about all that time and all those resources
Right.
that get spent on just basic things like keeping records on paper,
Yeah.
manually entering data, and then having to scramble to find information when you have like an audit.
Yeah.
It really adds up.
Yeah. It sounds like almost looking for a needle in a haystack.
Exactly.
But thankfully, the material also pointed to some solutions
Yeah.
that can help companies kind of overcome these challenges and actually use compliance to maybe even give them a strategic advantage.
Yeah.
And I was kind of interested in the digital solutions, particularly some of the stuff from Sigga.
Yeah. Sigga is definitely making some, big moves in the industry.
Yeah.
Their focus on asset management and maintenance, especially for companies that use SAP,
Hmm.
it's really spot on.
Yeah. So let's get into that. What is it specifically about Sigga's approach that kind of stands out?
Well, one of the things we talked about already was that lack of visibility,
Yeah.
in real time.
Yeah.
And their solutions, they bring all of that data, all that compliance data into one place.
Okay.
So you can see everything you need. It gives you a clear and accurate picture of how everything's operating at any time.
That's got to be a big relief for people. No more going through all the paperwork. So how does that translate into like tangible benefits?
So let's look at Sigga EAM Empower.
Okay.
One of the biggest headaches that companies have is showing traceability,
Okay.
especially when it comes to maintenance activities.
Right.
And EAM Empower really tackles this head on.
Okay. Break that down for me. What does that look like?
Okay, so think of it this way. Every single inspection, every repair, and every single maintenance task is recorded, like meticulously recorded in real time.
Wow.
And that creates like a digital trail that's super easy to access and it can be audited. Yeah.
No more lost paperwork and no more trying to remember what happened 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But how does it help with the reporting? Because, that was something else that came up a lot in what we were reading.
Yeah, that's another area where it really shines.
Okay.
EAM Empower automates the entire reporting process. So instead of manually compiling all that data and creating reports, which takes forever and is really prone to errors, you can generate really accurate reports with just a couple clicks.
So it's not just storing the data, it's making the data work for you.
Exactly. And with EAM Empower's advanced mobility features,
Mm.
technicians can actually input the data directly from wherever they are. So in the field, they can input it right there. It makes things so much more accurate and it's so much faster. This real-time data capture, it's a game changer for compliance.
It's like having a constant pulse on your compliance status. That's got to be really valuable,
It is.
especially during audits.
Yeah, and it's not just about reactive compliance either.
Okay.
Sigga also offers solutions that help companies be more proactive and stay ahead of the game. And that's where Sigga planning and scheduling comes in.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. What does that do, and how does it kind of work with EAM Empower?
Sigga planning and scheduling lets you centralize and streamline your maintenance planning.
Okay.
So it makes sure that nothing critical is missed.
Okay.
It prioritizes activities, it keeps track of everything, and it gives you like this total view of all your maintenance operations.
So it's like having a master planner for all things maintenance.
Exactly. It helps make sure everything's on track and compliant. And what's really important is that it integrates with existing systems like SAP PM, so you don't have to get rid of your whole infrastructure.
That's important.
Yeah,
For companies that are already invested in those systems, it sounds like they've really thought of everything.
they try to.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of how these solutions, like in the real world, have made a difference for companies?
Yeah, there are a few. One that comes to mind is a chemical company that was having some issues with their mandatory inspections.
Okay.
They ended up implementing Sigga planning and scheduling to map everything out and prioritize those inspections.
Okay.
And then they used EAM Empower to record all of the data as they went.
Wow.
And they avoided some big regulatory fines.
That's huge. Just
Yeah.
avoiding those fines has got to be a win.
Yeah,
But I imagine it goes beyond just the financial.
absolutely. And that's something that we're going to get into more as we go further into this deep dive.
It's really amazing to think that something as complex as, regulatory compliance
Right.
can be made, so manageable with the right tools.
Yeah, it really is. It's like a shift in perspective. Instead of thinking about compliance like it's this big burden, companies can start looking at it like it's an opportunity
Yeah.
to make things better and run more smoothly.
Right.
And even, maybe get a leg up on the competition.
That's a great point. Yeah. And something else that came up in the material was how these digital solutions can really reduce risk,
No, absolutely.
like significantly.
When you automate these processes, you cut down on human error so much,
Right.
and you miss things less. And what that means is that the whole operation is safer and more reliable. And that can have a positive impact on everything,
Okay.
like insurance premiums
Right.
and even customer trust.
Yeah. That peace of mind is pretty priceless for any business,
Yeah.
especially in industries where safety and reliability are so important.
Exactly. And we can't forget about how much more efficient things become.
Right.
I mean, some of the statistics we were looking at were pretty amazing, like a reduction in the time it takes to put together compliance reports. And it's not just reports either.
Yeah.
Think about audits.
Right.
Having all that data in one place makes it so much easier and faster.
So instead of dreading them, they can actually be confident going into an audit
Exactly.
that they have all the information they need.
Yeah, that's a huge change for a lot of companies. And when you can consistently show that you're compliant, it really sends a good message to everyone who's invested in the business.
Well, that's a good point. Speaking of stakeholders, the impact on a company's reputation, that was another thing that was highlighted a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these days, having a good track record when it comes to compliance, it really makes you stand out. It shows investors, customers, regulators, everybody that you're doing things the right way.
It's like a seal of approval
Yeah.
that says this company is trustworthy.
Yeah, it's really valuable in today's world where things are so competitive and everyone knows what everybody else is doing.
Right, right.
So yeah, Sigga's solutions can really help companies get to that point where they can just show how compliant they are.
Okay, so we talked a lot about the benefits, but let's say a company wants to make this change, embrace digital transformation. What are some steps they can take to get started?
Well, the first thing is that they got to really look at where they are right now with compliance.
Okay.
Where are they having problems? What processes are clunky?
Right.
Where are they making mistakes? Once they figure that out, they can look at which solutions are the right fit for them.
That makes sense, yeah. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, every company is different. Their compliance needs are going to be different depending on their industry, how big they are, how complicated their operations are.
Right.
So finding solutions that really work for them is crucial. Luckily, Sigga offers a lot of different solutions that can be customized to fit different needs.
So it's not just buying software.
No.
It's about, right.
And can help you through it.
Right.
And that's where Sigga's expertise in asset management and maintenance, especially for SAP systems, really comes in.
All this sounds great, but I'm sure some companies might feel a little overwhelmed at the thought of putting all this in place. Any advice for those who are maybe a little hesitant?
Oh, yeah. It's totally understandable to feel that way. The key is you don't have to do everything at once.
Okay.
Start small.
Okay.
Pick one thing you can really improve.
Okay.
And go from there. So maybe try a pilot project with Sigga EAM Empower just to streamline all that maintenance documentation.
Right.
Or use Sigga planning and scheduling to get a handle on some compliance critical tasks.
So start with something manageable and then build on it.
Exactly. And there's a ton of resources to help companies do that. Sigga has a whole team of experts who can give you guidance and support all the way. Efficiency, better reputation,
Right.
and in the end, a more sustainable and responsible business.
It's a win-win for everyone.
It is.
As we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to explore some of the bigger implications of these solutions.
Me too. There's so much more to learn about how these tools are shaping the future, and not just for compliance.
As we've been talking about all this, one thing that's really stood out to me is how these digital solutions, they're not just addressing these compliance challenges,
Right.
they're actually empowering the people who are doing the work, the technicians, the maintenance crews,
Mm.
everybody who's keeping these really complex operations going.
It is really interesting how technology is able to kind of bridge that gap,
Yeah.
between like the big picture goals of compliance
Right.
and what people are actually doing every day out in the field.
Exactly. And instead of, feeling bogged down by paperwork and stuff
Right.
and disconnected from like the bigger picture, these tools give them real-time information
Hmm.
and the ability to really contribute to making sure things are compliant.
Exactly. So like imagine a technician out there working.
Right.
They can use their, phone or tablet to instantly record all the data from an inspection.
Yeah.
It's accurate, it's fast, but it also gives them a sense of ownership,
Right.
like they're part of the
Yeah,
process.
they're not just checking boxes.
Right, exactly. And that can lead to people being more engaged,
Right.
create more of a culture of accountability,
Yeah.
and ultimately better compliance.
And if we think about it even more broadly, it seems like these solutions can help with some of those bigger changes that are happening in the industry as a whole.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a huge emphasis right now on using data to make decisions.
Right.
And companies need to be able to adapt quickly. The
Mm.
markets are always changing. And these compliance solutions fit right in with all that.
Yeah.
They give you real-time data, insights
Hmm.
that can be used to make better decisions across the whole company.
Like, for example, if you can optimize your maintenance schedules and cut down on downtime, that helps with your overall efficiency.
Exactly. And it's not just about compliance either.
Right.
This information can be used to manage assets better,
Right.
use resources more effectively,
Hmm.
even spot problems before they become big issues.
So it's like this positive loop where compliance actually leads to better operations
Mm,
and a more successful business overall.
exactly. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for you?
I think for me, it's realizing that dealing with compliance doesn't have to be such a pain.
Yeah.
It's about using the right tools, making sure everyone feels responsible, and understanding that compliance can actually be a good thing.
Hmm.
Like, it can lead to more efficiency and even new ideas.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, this isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
Regulations change, companies need to keep up, and these digital tools are going to be essential for doing that.
Well said. And for anyone listening who's ready to get started, we encourage you to check out Sigga.com.
Yeah.
You can learn more about solutions that can help you overcome those compliance challenges and maybe even find some new opportunities for your business.
It's all out there.
That's a wrap for another deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.